What's up, everybody? This is Harry Bernard Taylor with Straight Up Wrestling Show. And I'm going to talk to you. We're just basically going to talk wrestling. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Tony Khan. I'm going to talk a little bit about Triple H. And, of course, talk about their companies, AEW and the WWE. And we know recently, been a couple months now, I figure that's what it is, but basically a couple months that Triple H has been in control of WWE, and Tony Khan has been in business basically around 3 years at the helm of AEW. He's pretty much in control of everything. He do have people running other offices there, but when it boils down to it, he's the promoter and he's the booker. He's in control of everything. So what we want to look at and what we want to talk about today is, can one of these guys pull up and change the game? That's one thing that I want to talk about. Can they change the game? Can wrestling grow from these two guys going head to head? Or if it's just one of them in charge. If one entity survives, which right now it looks like if somebody's going to survive, it's going to be the WWE. WWE has been established for a long time now. They go back to the 50s. When it boils down to it, the legacy goes back to the 50s of WWE, or was it early 60s? I think it was 60, maybe 60, 61. I'm not sure. But their lineage goes a long way back. AEW is new kids on the block. Can AEW survive? Can they survive the gauntlet? Can they run the table? Can they basically last in this race? Now, wrestling is nowhere near what it used to be. Nowhere near what it used to be as far as fan support or anything like that. I mean, wrestling, people can look at wrestling and say, oh, wrestling today is alive and well and is strong and is just as popular as it was back in the day. No, it's not. And if you think that way, then you're basically, I hate to call anybody marks or whatever, but basically, that's what you are, because you're thinking that wrestling is pretty much a dominating factor in American society as it was before. Now, when they have pay-per-views, not pay-per-views, but premium events like WrestleMania, yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal because it's been a big deal for a long time. And as far as calling anybody marks, I'm not really calling anybody, to take that statement back, not really calling anybody marks, but, it's true, man. Some wrestling fans, just like NASCAR fans, just like some golf fans and some hockey fans, that's all they see. That's all they see. And, I've heard some crazy things like Ric Flair compared to, Michael Jordan or something like that. And, I love Ric Flair. He's my favorite wrestler. But, yes, he's a big name out here now. And he's pretty much basically a household name. But as far as Michael Jordan, not even on the same planet. So, I mean, Michael Jordan sold more shoes. He made more, his shoes made more money than the WWE generated last year. So that's the difference there. So what I'm trying to say is, I mean, wrestling at one point, back when I was growing up, back at its peak, I mean, it was around 21 million fans watching wrestling every week during the territorial days. And I mean, it was a big deal. And it was a big deal during the Attitude Era, right? I mean, between 97 and 2002. Wrestling enjoyed tremendous success, probably as big as it was back in the 70s and 80s. I mean, you didn't have the territory, so they did lose a lot of fans. But the whole thing about the 80s, I mean, not the 80s and 90s, but between 97 and 2002, the wrestlers that was in the game and the way that WWE and WCW, the things that they was doing, man, it upped the ante. And when I'm talking about upping the ante, a lot of new fans came in to watch the sport that never watched it. And yes, when I was growing up, it was considered a sport, but it was a lot of fans that came in and started watching this that normally wouldn't watch it, that usually watch football, basketball, boxing, baseball, things like that. And they will watch wrestling every now and then because they wanted somebody with a big mouth like Ric Flair to shut up. Or they like Hulk Hogan because he was, he was out here. He was pretty much telling people to make sure your kids say their prayers and take their vitamins and everything like that. So people looked at him as a good role model. So some people actually watch wrestling for those type characters. So wrestling was on a different plateau. But as far as game changers, you had a lot of people that came through over the years since I started watching wrestling, and that's in the early 70s until maybe around 2001, 2002. From maybe, let me go all the way back to 71, because I can remember watching wrestling when I was 4 years old, on up to 2002. No, 71 to 2001 to 2002, around time I stopped watching for a long time. And there was a lot of game changers. A lot of people that came in that changed the game, that upped the ante. Wrestling got better and better and better. There was people that brought more eyes to the screen. And Jim Crockett Jr. and Vince McMahon Jr. had a lot to do with that. Even Vince McMahon Sr. had a lot to do with that. You had bookers like George Scott, Dusty Rhodes. People like that had a lot to do with it. But you got to look at a lot of wrestlers that had something to do with it. And the first person I can really think of right off the top of my head is Chief Wahoo McDaniel. Came in hard-hitting Indian. I mean, just knocked the living daylights out of you. Johnny Valentine, Greg Valentine's dad. Him and Wahoo McDaniel had a feud in the Carolinas that put that organization, put Mid-Atlantic on the map. It put it over the top. It was strong before them, but they really took it over the top and made it the #1 NWA territory. Then you had a brash young man, 25-year-old man named Ric Flair, who came in 1974 at 24 and at 25. I think he was 25 in 1975. That came in and just set the world on fire. Now he was there in 74, but in 75 he became a solo wrestler. He started wrestling mostly solo. And he set the world on fire, man. Changed the whole game, changed how things was looked at, and really brought fans. He really brought those fans to another level, man. And he brought a level of hatred that haven't really been seen since. I mean, it's been seen in spurts, but it hasn't been seen somebody who carried that all the way through their career like Ric Flair did. Then you had Ricky Steamboat came in 1976. Or was it 77? I think it was 76. Came in and he upped the ante again. You had the Anderson brothers who basically was wrestling in the 60s. But in the 70s, man, these guys was a terror. That's when the Minnesota Wrecking Crew really made their mark in the 70s. Mid-70s to late 70s, early 80s, man. Those guys was devastating. Game changers. Game changers. Bruno Sammartino, his long reign as WWE champion. Game changer. Superstar Billy Graham. Nobody never seen muscles like that. The charisma that he had. Game changer. So you have wrestlers like that, man, who actually came in and changed the game. And then you roll over into the 80s. Tag team like the Road Warriors. Boom. Game changers, man. I mean, I could go back. I could look at wrestlers like Jack Briscoe, Harley Race, and all these guys like that. I'm really not going to call them game changers. They were just great wrestlers. But I'm talking about people that came in and changed the game. And right now we have Tony Khan and we have Triple H. Now, I've been watching Tony Khan since I started back watching wrestling. Been watching him since we started this podcast like 14 months ago. And I've been watching Tony Khan closely. And I do really believe that he wants to change the game, but Tony Khan has gotten to the point where he has gotten so absorbed that he think that he can do it on his own. And he's pretty much a spot guy. Pretty much hit a spot here, bring in surprises and things like that, and think that's gonna generate the fan adulation and get AEW over the way he wants it to get over, to be this big time thing. But it's not going to last. You need more than that. You have to build a star. You just can't, just because somebody has a bunch of muscles. I'm talking about Wardlow. Just because he has a bunch of muscles and things like that, you can't just push him out there and have him beat up a whole bunch of security guards and do all those things like that and think it's going to make him a star. So, I mean, I've seen him do a lot of things. And do we have guys over there that could change the game? In my opinion, he has one, and that's MJF. He can change the game of wrestling. He needs to be set on a pedestal. This is one of the guys over there in AEW who can change the game and take it to another level. Do we have other guys over there that could do that? Yes, he can. Jon Moxley? I don't think so. Bryan Danielson? I think Bryan Danielson can get to a level of someone like a John Cena or whatever, but Bryan Danielson is not going to bring in new fans. I just don't believe that. You have other people over there that could do it, but he has some talented wrestlers that he could probably build up, and if they probably run a good storyline to him, that could actually do it. I really feel that there's some wrestlers that that's really being held back to where those guys could go to another level, and they can generate the fan interest that Tony Khan craves so much. Now let's look at Triple H. My man Triple H over in WWE. Triple H, game changer. This man was a game changer. Back when he was with DX, he changed the game. Over in WWE. WWE was on a downslide big time and was getting dominated by WCW. But DX came in and they changed the game. So he was able to do it. Over in NXT, he done a great job running that. Now he's running the WWE, the biggest wrestling organization of all time. And since he's been running it, I have to look at it. I'm going to give him a solid B grade. I'm giving him a solid B, 4 stars. I give him 4 stars for what he has done over in WWE. Now, he's had a few shows that's been 5 stars. There's no ins, ands, and buts about it. But, you know, to be honest about it, I mean, I still see elements of WWE and Vince McMahon. And sometimes I look around and I think, I'm like, what in the world is he doing? But overall, he's been very consistent, and a lot of the things that he's doing is making a lot of sense. But can Triple H change the game again? And when I'm talking about changing the game, can Triple H bring in those fans that's been lost to wrestling? I mean, if we look at what's going on today, how many fans are watching wrestling? I say we have maybe 5.5 million fans a week watching wrestling. If you just go AEW and WWE, the main players as far as watching wrestling on TV. Now you can throw in Impact, and you can throw in All Japan, and I mean not All Japan, New Japan, and things like that, and it's another couple 100,000 fans, maybe. Well, it's not even a couple 100,000. I say almost 100,000 fans. And then you got to look at all the independents around the country. You probably got another million there, maybe, a little bit more. But 6 million fans or whatever. What happened to all the rest of those 15 million fans? Because they're out there. I think Jim Cornette and a few other people said that's 12, 13 more million fans. I think it's around 15 million when it boils down to it. That's not watching wrestling today. Don't want to have anything to do with it. Or if you ask them a question about it, they'll say, oh, I used to watch wrestling. I used to watch wrestling when WCW was around. I used to watch WWE a long time ago, but I gave up. I stopped watching it. And my question is, can Tony Khan, and I know a lot of people are out on him or whatever, but he has, in the last 2-3 Dynamites, they have blew up. Can he change the game? Can Triple H change the game? Triple H got the best opportunity in the world right now. I mean, they did 2.5 million on SmackDown, this past SmackDown. Best rating they've had in 2 years. And I looked at, some of the things they're doing. And man, I tell you what, Roman Reigns has such a presence by him. He is so great. Didn't wrestle, didn't have to. But can Kahn convince him to continue to be a full-time wrestler? And that's what they need. They need Roman Reigns to be a full-time wrestler because Roman Reigns can elevate this thing to something amazing. He can put it back up there, man. He can put it back up there where everybody's talking about wrestling again. It's more respected as a sport. But the whole thing about it is, Triple H and they definitely have the opponents for him to really make this, to really make it special. The opponents are over there. You just got to build the feuds. Ric Flair, most outstanding feuds ever. Nobody comes near the man that he wrestled. Nobody comes near that. The pool of wrestlers that he had to choose from. Roman Reigns need that. But Roman Reigns has to dedicate himself 2 to 3 years, I say 3 years, of in-ring action and being there week in, week out. Pretty much I'm saying he has to sacrifice himself for WWE. Sacrifice himself for Triple H. If one of these guys want to change the game, along with the wrestlers. But besides that, man, I mean, I'm gonna go ahead. That's pretty much all I have to say on that. And I appreciate everybody listening to me. And if you listening to this podcast, hit that like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you're on YouTube, do the same thing on Twitch. If you're on Twitter, hit that like, share, retweet. If you're listening to this on Facebook, hit that like, share, and join. Like, share, definitely join. And man, I'm just going to talk a little bit about something that's coming up this weekend. Chris and I, we plan on being at this show, hopefully as long as weather permits. And as long as weather permits and nothing happens, hopefully nothing happens where this show will have to be canceled or anything like that. I want to talk about the Holly Yasko Memorial Cup, the seventh annual Holly Yasko Memorial Cup is going to be live in Rutherfordton, North Carolina, this Saturday, October the 1st. Doors open at 6 p.m. Bell time is 7 p.m. $10 at the door, $10 tickets, and children. Children is $5. I think 12 and under is $5. So definitely the Holly Yasko Memorial Cup is coming up this weekend. My man Gene Perry is putting this thing on. It's the seventh annual one. And Joey Godfrey, who is the promoter out there at HWA, we definitely appreciate him putting this thing on. But this show will be Saturday. Chris and I, we plan on being there. So definitely, man, come out and support the Holly Yasko Memorial Cup. We definitely would like to see you out there. And man, let me give a shout out. Let me give a shout out to one of our sponsors, Angel Breath Designs, angelbreathdesigns.com. Go check out angelbreathdesigns.com, which most people know is the chief designer and of all things King Enterprises. So check out Angel Breath by Designs. And man, let me say a few things about a couple other more promoters before I get on out of here. Lil Boys Toys. Lil Boys Toys. Go check them out. And ask to speak to Lucy Darby. Lil Boys Toys is on Lawrence Road, 609 Lawrence Road, Greenville, South Carolina, 29607. Lucy Darby. Go talk to Lucy Darby. Phone number is 864-520-8436. Man, they will hook you up with a nice car. I mean, some of those, you know, they got some fancy cars out there. But definitely go out and check them out. One more, man. One more. Let's go with another sponsor, Happy Trails Auto Sales. Go check out my man, John Greer. John Greer is a friend of mine. Definitely a friend of mine. And I'm not just putting him up here because he's a friend of mine. John Greer is a great guy. John Greer has some great cars. Sold my daughter a nice Honda Civic. Man, this thing is great car. Me and Chris, we got to get down here and we're going to display a few cars and we're going to test drive some of his cars and let people see what's going on. But we will be doing that. Chris had some things that come up today that he didn't think was coming up. He was supposed to be off all day and we were supposed to get some podcasts in. But as you hear, I'm by myself. I'm rolling solo. But John Greer at Happy Trails Auto Sales on 10 West Lee Road in Taylor, South Carolina, 29687. The number at Happy Trails Auto Sales is 864-283-0314. That's 864-283-0314. Happy Trails Auto Sales. Tell them Harry and Chris sent you. Man, definitely. And I think my man John, he might cut you some kind of deal or whatever. Because I tell you what, these wrestlers out here, you know you guys need cars. Get out there. And, I mean, you can buy from anywhere across the country. Go to the website, Happy Trails Auto Sales. Man, I definitely appreciate it. But, I don't really want to get twisted up. I'm sitting here. I'm looking at the screen, and I'm just basically talking. I'm basically talking about, today I talked about, can Tony Khan or can Triple H bring wrestling back up? Can they elevate the game? Can they change the game? That's what I'm talking about. Can they change the game to something special? Something that we actually need today. Put it on another plane, man. Put it on a cleaner plane. I mean, first thing first though, they need to concentrate, focus on getting better before bigger. Each and every one. I mean, both of them. Just get better before getting bigger. And all that bigger will come later. But man, for the Straight Up Wrestling Show, my name is HBT. My name is Harry. They call me HBT, Harry Bernard Taylor. And asking everybody out here, stay straight up. See you guys later. Peace.